but I want to make sure if I know something, speak honestly. After my stream, I got close-up pictures of the collar on my mother's life. I didn't see prongs. I'm pretty sure it's a vibrate collar. So maybe I should have said 99% sure instead of 100. I'm not making any other comments about whether he has a collar, has shocked her, whatever. I never made a comment saying he shocked her to begin with, but I just genuinely saw a picture of it after. It did have tape, and the tape was, I think it was covering or had his phone number on it or something. That's what the tape was. I think it was like covering a written. And I saw pictures on my mother's life. I saw a picture of it. Perhaps he went out and bought one. And this was a ruse to fool me, perhaps. Stop farming it. I'm not farming it, but like I genuinely saw it. So it's like, am I supposed to sit here and not say I saw it? Because I saw this after I did the stream. Should I lie? Should I lie and say I didn't? I don't love this, bro. I'm just genuinely sitting here as a human. I saw it with my own eyes. And I went on live saying that it was a color. So now I'm saying I saw it with my own eyes.
Ludwig's returned his own words. His choice to sit before his audience and revisit what he once declared as fact is not just an act of correction, is an act of self-reckoning. In that moment, he is a man contending not only with what he said, but with what it means to speak in a world that never forgets. I think about what it means to recant in the modern age, how hard it is to take something back when it has already been offered up to the digital mob. The internet, unlike the air, does not clear. The words we say linger like smoke over a city. They hang there, repeating, reshared, reshaped by voices that never sleep. Ludwig, in the glow of his camera, confronting the fallout of his own voice, becomes something emblematic of our time, a man trapped in the permanence of his own performance. The thing about the streaming world, this strange new arena where millions gather to watch other people talk, is that it has stripped away the delay between thought and expression. There is no editor, no cooling period, no moment to sit in quiet contemplation. There is only the instant. The light turns on, the chat scrolls, the host speaks. In that immediacy, truth becomes slippery. A man can say what he believes, only to find that belief eroding beneath the weight of new information, of perspective, of the simple passage of time. And yet, by then, it's too late. The clip is already out there, breathing on its own. Ludwig's words about Hassan, about the collar, about what he believed he saw, they were born from that same immediacy. A moment of conviction. A moment where what felt true became what was said. But the internet is not kind to those who discover the complexity of truth too late. The same crowd that cheers a man's candor will punish him for his hesitation. To say you are unsure, to admit you were wrong, to change your mind, these are not gestures the algorithm rewards. And yet, these are the very gestures that define humanity. When Ludwig spoke again, when he revisited his own story, what I heard was not cowardice. What I heard was a man struggling against the machinery of certainty that this world demands of him. I heard the discomfort of honesty in a time that has forgotten how to value it. Every man who broadcasts his thoughts into the world lives with a particular kind of pressure, the pressure to perform authenticity. We live in an era that confuses transparency with truth, where the act of speaking feels like the act of being. The camera becomes a kind of confession booth, but one with no priest, no forgiveness, only an audience hungry for purity. In such a world, to hesitate is to falter. To question yourself is to appear weak. But the truth, the hard human truth, is that we are always in motion, always moving toward or away from understanding. There is no purity in thought, only process. Ludwig's confession, his revisiting, is a reminder that process still matters, even when it is uncomfortable. What struck me most was not the content of what he said, but the texture of his uncertainty. He didn't speak as an entertainer that day. He spoke as someone bewildered by the scale of his own voice. There was a tremor in his reasoning, the recognition that he had entered something much larger than himself. In that tremor lies the modern dilemma. How does one navigate a world where speaking is livelihood, but silence is complicity? Every content creator lives at the intersection of commerce and conscience. What they say has value, not just moral, but monetary. And when that speech touches another person, another livelihood, the ripple becomes a wave. The weight of that realization, when it finally lands, is crushing. Certainty is seductive. It feels like strength in a world that equates hesitation with failure. But certainty unchecked is dangerous. It hardens into ideology, into dogma. into the kind of arrogance that blinds us to the fallibility of our own perception. Ludwig's story is not just about one man's misstep, it is about a culture addicted to certainty. The streaming world, with its instant reactions, its hot takes, its algorithms that reward outrage, thrives on absolutes. It rewards those who speak in declarations, not questions. "I think" has no place in a headline. Only "I know." And so we speak as if we know. We speak before we verify, before we reflect, before we consider. Because silence in this landscape feels like death. The audience moves on. The metrics drop. The sponsors waver. And yet, in this race to be first, to be loud, to be definitive, something sacred is lost. Ludwig's correction, his attempt to reintroduce nuance into a space allergic to it, was met with skepticism, even hostility. To change one's mind in public is to invite scorn. But this, too, is part of the sickness. We have built a culture where redemption feels impossible because we have confused performance with morality. I don't mean the mob in the old sense, not torches and pitchforks, but hashtags and clips, message boards and timelines. This new mob does not gather in the square, it gathers in the comments section. It does not burn buildings, it burns reputations. When Ludwig revisited his own statement, he was not just speaking to his audience, he was speaking through them, attempting to reach the humanity that still lingers beneath the noise. But the mob does not listen for understanding, it listens for weakness. The moment he admitted uncertainty, the moment he walked back the absolutes, the crowd shifted. They smelled vulnerability. There is something ancient about that impulse, the human need to find a villain, to name a betrayer. The internet has given this instinct infinite reach. Every day, someone must be the villain of the hour. Every day, a new person must be sacrificed to the collective thirst for moral clarity. Ludwig's sin, in this sense, was not deceit. It was imperfection. He dared to be human in a space that punishes humanity. What fascinated me most about this entire saga was the language of sight. Ludwig spoke of what he saw. The color, the images, the small details that seemed to prove or disprove a claim. Vision in the digital age has become our most trusted sense, and yet it is the most deceived. We think that to see something is to know it. But a photo, a clip, a frame, these are fragments. They tell us nothing of context, nothing of motive, nothing of soul. And yet we treat them as gospel. We have traded the complexity of reality for the convenience of images. Ludwig's insistence on what he saw with his own eyes speaks to this cultural faith in sight. But even sight can lie. Even vision, untempered by reflection, becomes propaganda. The irony is that in trying to correct himself, in trying to anchor his truth in vision, he reveals how fragile truth has become. We are all witnesses to partial realities, and yet we act as though we are judges of the full story. There was a time when public confession carried the promise of absolution. To admit wrong was to seek forgiveness. But in the world of streaming, confession is just another kind of content. Every apology becomes a spectacle. Every self-reflection becomes a new performance. Ludwig's moment of reckoning unfolded live, before thousands. It was, in essence, a digital pilgrimage, a man traveling through his own uncertainty in front of an audience that both demanded and resented it. He wanted to be seen as honest, as transparent, but the act of broadcasting that honesty inevitably transformed it into entertainment.